Hello and welcome to the webinar 2026 Mid-Year Consumer Trends, the Backlash Against Artificial Everything. My name is Cheryl Auger, Senior Director here at Lux Research, and I'll be moderating today's session. Presenting today are my fantastic colleagues, Fabian Bowens, Research Associate, and Emma Kaberksis, Research Associate here at Lux. Now, throughout the webinar, we encourage you to type in any questions that you have in the question box on your screen. Time permitting, we will answer all the questions that we can. And now, don't worry, if we don't get to your questions today, please don't hesitate to email us at questions@luxresearchinc.com. That's questions@luxresearchinc.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. If you experience any technical difficulties during today's session, like a frozen screen, please refresh your browser and check that your internet connection is strong. Now, with all that said, let's jump into today's discussion.
Thank you, Cheryl. So I'm Fabian, and welcome to our presentation, Backlash Against Everything Artificial. Our agenda for today, I'll first be talking a little bit about our approach and the role of human expertise in that. And as you will see, it links directly to the topic, Backlash Against Everything Artificial. Then we'll do a deep dive in force shifting and emerging trends in mid-2026. And finally, we'll be going over a few key insights and takeaways. Now I'll jump right into the first segment, basically introduction, our approach, and human expertise. Who are we and what do we do exactly at Lux? Of course, here at Lux, we use artificial intelligence, like to go through big data to analyze big chunks of data, like synthesize them. But what makes us unique and sets us apart from other consumer insight services is like our human expertise that we combine with these tools. Our researchers have formal expertise. For example, many of us have a PhD in a specific area. We do have an expertise in specific geographic areas. For example, I myself, I'm mostly doing Germany and Japan. And then we also have like experts that work on specific topics, for example, consumer CPGs or, for example, beauty products. Now, what this provides is extra context and insights that can often be like ignored by AI or by big data tools that don't really pick up on like unique insights like we can provide them. A little example, you see the toothpick here. Well, we were once doing a delivery on a report for the German market, which was about oral care. Now, the unexpected insight here was basically this toothpick, which was added by me because the toothpick was traditionally associated in Germany with food culture and having a meal, not really with oral care, although it fits into the same kind of market. So this is like just a little example, little tidbit of unexpected insights and context that provide the added value that we human experts provide on top of our tools. And with this little introduction, let's go here over to say what we do use AI for. We use it as a tool to analyze and synthesize large amounts of data, as already said, for example, on virtual anthropologists, which many of you may know. But at the end of the day, it's just that, it's a tool. Our human expertise is always the key to what we deliver. For example, our inquiry reports, or delivery reports, or webinars, just like this. It's always the human expertise that's central. So, the different segments of the shifting and emerging trends in mid-2026 that are about the backlash against anything artificial, we'll be dealing with, first of all, AI and trust. Second, nostalgia and retroculture, followed by a segment on authenticity, and finally a segment on affordability and financial anxiety. And with that, in the interest of time, I'll give the floor to Emma.
Thanks, Fabian. So one of the key themes in our look ahead to 2026 was big tech and trust. So here I'll dive a little bit deeper into AI and trust as a growing offshoot of that theme, which has gained traction with consumers in the first half of 2026. From a consumer perspective, the AI narrative is getting more nuanced. The initial excitement is giving way to greater scrutiny as consumers, employees, regulators, and businesses grapple with AI's real-world implications and limits. This ties directly to the report's Tech That Resonates theme, which tracks rising skepticism about big tech and control. We've seen environmental concerns about AI data centers move into the mainstream conversation, notably during the Southern California wildfires in January 2025. And since then, these worries about water use, noise, heat from data centers have continued to surface online. Specifically, we've seen it in meme culture. In a way, in May of this year, tech speakers at US convocations were getting booed when they mentioned AI. For many recent graduates, the message was stark. The job market is shifting just as you're about to enter it. Traditional career paths, once seen as dependable, such as computer programming, administration, and financial analysis, are being reshaped by AI adoption, and massive layoffs tied to automation keep reinforcing that anxiety. That distrust isn't only among consumers. Brands that experimented with AI are increasingly vocal about disappointing outcomes. So just a few examples here. Pizza Hut faces a franchisee lawsuit over an AI-assisted delivery system, and it's rumored to have scrapped the program. Starbucks ended an automated inventory AI software they had after less than a year of use. Uber reportedly exhausted its 2026 AI budget in 4 months and is, I believe, still assessing whether they got any return on that spend. So these high-profile stumbles make AI's failings more visible, and many consumers are now actively celebrating these failures as proof that AI isn't infallible. Even moral leaders have begun to weigh in. As we know, the Pope made public commentary about the inhumanity of certain AI uses. So there's another layer of morality that's brought into the debate. So that being said, AI isn't going away. It's definitely here to stay. And people increasingly see AI as a tool with practical uses rather than a near godlike force. Books like Karen Howe's 2025 Empire of AI have helped make the industry's problems more understandable to the public, accelerating demands for accountability. As a result, companies are being pushed to define clear AI policies so consumers understand how AI is used in products, services, content, and the workplace. Concerns about misinformation, copyright, low quality AI slop output create a specific need for transparency. So consumers want to know that AI is in trusted hands and used responsibly. Some will remain firmly anti-AI and there's no way you can really win them back, but most people stand somewhere in the middle. Consumers are looking for brands that have moved beyond bragging about AI adoption towards applying AI responsibly. So brands can do this by first labeling and explaining AI use. So tell people plainly when AI is involved, what it does, what human checks are in place, such as an inventory system that you have online might be assisted with the help of AI. However, everything is, supervised by real humans. Secondly, acknowledging limitations and showing how uses are remediated. When AI gets it wrong, be the first to say so. Explain why, show how you'll make it right. Starbucks' public discussion about the shortcomings of AI and choosing to scrap it is a great example of a company not being too proud and taking the L. Publishing clear guardrails for data use and generative models. So publish consumer-facing AI policies. What data do you use? How do you protect it? How are your models built? With consented renewable sources, and let clients know how their data is safe and where AI is definitely not being used. Right, Fabian, you can take it away.
Thank you, Emma. Which brings us to our next trend, nostalgia and retro culture. In 2026, uncertainty is driving consumer desire for emotional predictability, safety, certainty, and social connectedness. So basically, certainty is what they're looking for. Nostalgia is the thing that gives people this feeling of certainty. Now, artificial intelligence, artificiality has also had an effect on nostalgia itself. Traditionally, nostalgic cycles occur once every 20 or 30 years, but AI has been disrupting this. What you see is that these cycles are becoming more compressed. Because we're able to record more, we also are able to look back better on eras of the past because we have more memories, we have more data logs, we have more pictures, we have more images. So this created new phenomena on top of the existing type of nostalgia. First of all, we talk about nostalgia, which is basically looking back to a fairly recent period in time, for example, 2022 or 2020. So only a few years back, yet still people can start feeling nostalgic about it. And they have enough reference points now to actually like connect to that. The other form is aspirational nostalgia. This is not completely new. However, again, because of AI, because we have better ways to create like imagery, for example, of how the 90s looked, how the 80s looked, people who have never been through that stage will be able to connect better to that. So they might feel nostalgic for periods they've never really been living in themselves. So what does nostalgia do? Consumers don't become nostalgic because the past was perfect. They become nostalgic because the present feels uncertain. So they want to go back to a time that felt certain. That's what nostalgia does. It basically provides this certainty. Statistics have, like the Arcbridge Institute has found that 77% of US consumers view nostalgia as a sort of source of comfort during economic or social volatility. That means that nostalgia provides them with comfort during these periods of uncertainty. I provide like a few products here in the bottom, like you can see like the Play-Doh, for example. This was branded to adults instead of children. Also like the action figure that you have there. Of course, children can play for it, and of course certain children will play for it, but it's actually a reboot of a 1980s franchise, and most of the people buying it are actually adults. Also the Crayola bottle, that you see there is something that will be appreciated by both adults and by children. Again, nostalgia sells. Nostalgia sells, especially like when it's updated, because it gives the certainty to people. Consumers are struggling with AI fatigue, especially like because it came right after COVID, where we all felt very socially disconnected, like and kind of isolated. So what people are craving for most now is like things that feel real, tactile, tangible, and also they have a need for privacy. You might say like, why need privacy? Like when we have all of these kind of like tools that make it easier to communicate with each other. Well, because the real contact is missing. It's all via Zoom, it's all via phone and all that. So people also want to have like the opportunity to just shut down the camera and have private moments. So that's also part of this real experience that they're looking for. So what can brands do to leverage this need for nostalgia? They can appeal to consumers' need for social connectedness, like real social connectedness. Appealing to AI fatigue with analog as an alternative. They can cater to new and traditional forms of nostalgia, like the aforementioned nostalgia and also the aspirational nostalgia. And they can target adults who can now afford items they couldn't as kids, like I showed in the previous slide, like products like when they were kids are being rebooted in a nicer or adult-friendly form today. And in the interest of time, back to you, Emma.
Great, thanks, Fabian. So authenticity was an underlying topic across many of the key themes identified for 2026, and it has continued to grow in importance halfway through the year. As Fabian identified, consumers increasingly feel they are not living authentically in the present while perceiving previous eras as more authentic. This is partly because hindsight is 2020. People can look back on past periods through clearly defined aesthetics, economic conditions, housing markets, and cultural dynamics that have been simplified by media and academia. By contrast, the present is still taking shape, which makes it feel uncertain. And so the search for signals of authenticity help ground them. In addition, living digital lives through social media and working from home on their computer has made many people feel alienated from living an authentic IRL life. The social media bans for children in Australia in December 2025 and similar policies gaining traction in Europe and North America highlighted a desire for children to be able to live more authentically away from addictive technology. Trends like underconsumption core and de-influencing on social media showcase a desire to live authentically in the moment rather than trying to imitate others. Consumers search for products, not just to chase trends, but to help them reconnect with their bodies, to build a sense of self and improve their well-being. So consumers want to stop compulsive social media use to help them live more authentically in the present, away from endless doom scrolling. Apps like Opal block users from accessing distracting apps on their phone, offering a strict mode that make it harder to bypass restrictions than with standard screen time or app blocking tools you might already have pre-programmed on your iPhone or Android. Products like Brick make this idea take this idea even further by creating a physical barrier to digital use. As a tangible object that locks users out of their devices, Brick makes disconnection feel more intentional and harder to override than an app alone. Consumers believe that social connection helps them live more authentically. So they take up hobbies and pastimes that help them engage in low-stakes socialization. Recently, over the last few years, there's been a growing interest in chess. So websites, apps like chess.com, or even joining a local chess group has been on the rise. Running has also had a huge surge in interest with apps like Strava, helping consumers find running groups and routes. The cost of entry of these hobbies are typically very low, with consumers having full agency over how they want to spend to participate, such as investing in chess books or one-on-one training sessions, or buying the newest carbon-plated running shoes and ventilated shirts. Feelings of authenticity come from experiences with others. Third, consumers talk about the body being an anchor for authenticity, and this is something we touched on quite a lot in our 2026 trends to look out for. AI-generated images and undisclosed sponsored ads make consumers weary of beauty and wellness product hype. The only endorsement they can trust is from themselves. And so they want products that offer an immediate look of feeling of satisfaction. So things like lip plumpers are back in vogue from brands like VT Cosmetics. It creates a tingling sensation that it's working. Eyebrow gels from KJH brand that instantly slick hairs and feels secure on the skin. Matte, now known as blurred makeup from NARS, offers a soft airbrush look as opposed to some recently sticky, clean, and glass skin products. So considering all this, how consumers look for restricted social media use, community, and bodily experiences, brands can offer products that help consumers feel in the present and more aware of themselves by designing for embodied proof. Give consumers immediate sensory evidence about how your product look and feel. This can mean packaging that provides a glimpse into the product promises, and product description should highlight how it will feel, smell, and look rather than an overfixation on individual ingredients and aspirational vibes. Another interesting example I would say is from car interiors. There's been a big push in Europe to include more physical buttons, especially for essential driving tasks, rather than having included on the touchscreen, sometimes dangerously hidden away. So people do crave the physical, once again, even in cars. Secondly, providing low-cost social opportunities. Consumers need to be motivated to get outside of their house when they have most of the world available at their fingertips. Providing spaces for consumers to not just consume, but to hang out. Look for ways to bring younger people in through cheap and small food, drink options, free play opportunities, and also privacy. There's a lot of modern, wide open design spaces, but people want to feel cozy in a space so that they can have intimate and serious conversations. And third, making deliberate disconnection a feature. Offering physical menus and rewards cards allows consumers to not have to rely on their phone. Innovation should create greater variety of options that most suits each customer needs, which are all different, not restrict them. So look for ways to just provide a variety of options so that they don't have to over rely on their phone to get the right coupon and to activate it. Fabian, back to you.
Thank you, Emma. This brings me to affordability and financial anxiety. In 2026, growing financial anxiety is making consumers less interested in maximizing and more interested in stabilizing. The economic anxiety that people are feeling is fueling moderation. Things that are doing this is, for example, persistent inflation concerns, which only seem to get worse, housing affordability pressures, which are felt everywhere, and then, of course, AI-related job uncertainty, which links directly back to backlash against everything artificial, and then geopolitical conflict, which I'm also sure we're all aware about. What you see is that uncertainty is the same driver here, so the same driver as for nostalgia. One trend that was also mentioned in our 2026 six key trends to watch out for in 2026 is the importance of affordable premiums. You see that while people are not really interested in optimizing without in end or just like replacing stuff at a high expense, they are interested in intentional spending, making small updates or small investments if it provides like real quality, if it's reliable, if it's durable. And in a way, you can also see here that it reflects like this need for something real, something tangible. So there's also a connection between nostalgia and affordability. Um, Research has shown that consumers are more susceptible to nostalgia-driven campaigns. Nostalgia makes consumers less sensitive to affordability concerns. They've noted that nostalgia-driven campaigns, for example, have a higher click-through rate, and also that advertising costs in general are lower. The reason for that is because it goes straight to the emotion. It goes straight to basically the core of what people feel, and it doesn't really need to discuss, like, for example, what the feature is of a product or why a product is better than another one. No, instead, it appeals to the feeling of nostalgia. I have a few examples here of products that have leveraged nostalgia for marketing. For example, Kellogg's has started putting toys again into the cereal boxes with the release of Toy Story 5. Polaroid, for example, had this really great slogan, jump in some water before the data center drinks it all up. So direct jab at AI. And then Adidas came with this line of backyard legends, so basically nostalgic inspired shoes that also appeal to nostalgia, but are still like trendy. Um, so nostalgia reduces the psychological importance of money for consumers as what they get out of it is increased feelings of connectedness. So what is real here? What makes a difference? What makes the quality is the feeling of certainty, the feeling of something real. That's what nostalgia delivers here. So brands can benefit from nostalgia-driven campaigns because they reduce perceptions of price unfairness. Nostalgic consumers are also more forgiving about pricing, and nostalgic consumers are less focused on price comparisons, which makes that consumers purchase something that feels real. That's the important part here. And with that, over to you, Emma.
All right, awesome. So to quickly summarize some key themes and takeaways Fabian and I touched on. Number one, reduce uncertainty by signaling what feels real. So consumers want to have an outcome they can interpret through their senses, set realistic expectations, and write product descriptions that get to the point. Two, discuss AI as a feature, not as a selling point. AI isn't the exciting buzzword it once was, and consumers are on the lookout for AI content as proof of inauthenticity and lack of care from brands. So brands should use AI as a tool, but be honest and transparent about its uses. And third, leverage nostalgia to reinforce long-term value. Historic and legacy brands have built in trust into their brands just from being around for so long. Newer brands should focus on delivering a high-quality product and creating a unique identity and aesthetic that is easily identifiable to become the nostalgic objects of tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for such a great webinar, Fabian and Emma. We're going to take some questions now. We have a little bit of time for a couple of questions. So for the audience, please go ahead and type your questions into the question box if you haven't already. And as I mentioned earlier, if we don't have a chance to answer your question today, someone from Lux will be in touch after the webinar. All right, so let's take a look. Oh, this is a really good one, and I think I can anticipate your answer, but I'd love to hear from you on this. So here's the question that we're getting. Is the shift toward real experiences or in real life experiences a temporary backlash, or is it a long-term structural movement?
It's a very interesting question indeed. And I think it's more of a trade-off because, yes, temporary, like it may be that AI for a while will have a little bit of a negative connotation, artificiality. But what is going to be constant is that people always will find a need for like social connectedness with social animals. So we want to have things that feel real, that we can touch. We also always will have a need for privacy. So it's more about like, okay, how much AI do we want to have in our lives? And I think it's like any technological invention that comes up. Like at first there will be like some kind of scrutiny, people will be afraid, but eventually like it will balance itself out. So where there's a backlash now, it may become better in the future, but I don't think we will ever see an age where everything will become much more artificially centered, but much more of a trade-off, more of a balance. Emma, if you can maybe also speak to that.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely right. I think a concern over authenticity is like just a deeply human thing to do. And it just makes me think of like the concern about the noble savage back in the day and like the roots of anthropology, but also just anytime there's a new exciting innovation, there's a deep concern about how is that going to alter our humanity and how is that going to distance ourselves from what humans are supposed to do. So concerns about authenticity, they make sense, but it's also, I don't think that the concern over real, it might just be spoken about a lot now because AI is artificial. So, you know, the opposite of that being what is real. But that kind of concern and conversation is going to grow and then it's going to kind of level off, but it's always going to be there. So being authentic, concerns about authenticity, I think are just a human consistency.
So we're in it for the long term, in other words, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. So here's another awesome question for you. I'm eager to hear your response to. How can we innovate around familiarity without simply recreating the products from the past? So how do we ensure when we're drawing on nostalgia that we're actually being innovative, or is it even necessary? Love to hear your responses.
Very good question. So at the end of the day, like people don't want to feel tricked. Like I talked about like how nostalgia, for example, can be used to market products. And the lazy way to go about it would be like, yes, simply taking a product from the past, slapping a new label onto it, and then like, ta-da, nostalgia, and people are not going to fall for it. So all of the nostalgic products that come out, they like the people who made it, like put thought into it. For example, like the Play-Doh example that I had for adults, they actually developed like specific scents. They developed like a specific way to use this for adults as party favors. And it's not just like children's Play-Doh that they simply like put an adult label on or something. So yeah, for me, I think like it's really just that, like be sensitive to people not being dumb and consumers paying attention. So people don't want to get tricked. Emma?
Yeah, I agree. I think some people do see the replication of nostalgic products as being like cheap and easy. But I think that also consumers are always, there's always a balance that needs to be striked, I think, between nostalgia and like modern conveniences. So people don't want, products made of plastic that's, toxic to them, let's say, like they might have been made of back in the time, and they're looking also for modern amenities. So something that comes to mind for me is I was recently at a wedding. Instead of having disposable cameras with film that are expensive to develop, it's honestly very impractical to use also. Instead, you have an app that replicates it. So people can take pictures on this app called POV. It mimics what a disposable camera does. You have a limit of 15 pictures. You can't see them. Only the people hosting the wedding can. And then eventually it's released to the wedding crowd. And so having those kind of imitations or modern versions of what used to be, I think, is the better way to look at it. But people do crave innovation and things that are new. So it's just about really striking that balance, I think, when you look at nostalgic products.
And that's fascinating, and I'm sure that if anyone was interested in talking about this for their own product or category, we'd be more than happy to talk to them about it. Absolutely. With that, I think that's all the time that we have for today. So I'll just thank you once again for a really thoughtful session. I know that my brain's going. I'm thinking about the ideas that you shared, and we're eager to keep the conversation going. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in that box. We'll reach out to you. And thank you so much, Emma and Fabian, for such a great webinar. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.